Hey guys, welcome back to Beat Sweets Farm. Today's video, I'm going to take you around to visit all the animals while I talk to you about how I run my home business using the Florida Cottage Food Law. Now, I know there's cottage food laws in other states, but you will have to research it online to make sure your state does allow it, because I know not all the states have them. But for Florida, we have a really good cottage food law. We're allowed to sell $50,000 worth in our products with this law without having to have any specific licensing or permits. You still need like a local business license, and you still need to obviously pay your taxes on the income that you make. But for the most part, it's super easy. You can make your products from home in your home kitchen, and it cuts out a lot of the fees and stuff associated with having to go commercial and make all your products in a commercial kitchen. So I'm just gonna go around and go through all the animals while I talk about that. So let's start back here. So my business focuses on jams and baked items for the most part. I started off, when I very first started, I started off selling baked items, dried fruit, candied fruit like candied orange zest and stuff like that. Just the simple basics of what the cottage food law allows. Here in Florida, cottage food law, from the top of my head, allows jams, dried fruit, hey princess, baked items, as long as they don't need to be refrigerated. So for example, breads, cookies, cupcakes, as long as there's no like cream cheese frosting on them. You can't sell cheesecake or like flan, egg custards, but anything that's kind of like a dry baked item that you don't really need to refrigerate is allowed in the cottage food law. Jams and jellies, as long as there is no like vegetables in it. So like a spicy jam, for example, that has peppers in it would not be considered cottage food law. But just a plain mango jam, strawberry jam, pineapple jam, just the basics are allowed. Here in Florida, pickles are not considered cottage food law, but I know in other states I've read that it is, so I guess it just depends. But for the most part, if your state has a cottage food law, you are going to have to look up at the list of what you can and cannot sell and make from your home kitchen. Dried pastas, homemade pasta, that's allowed. It's just a list, and it's always changing, so you just got to look it up. I don't have a list with me right now, but for the most part, my business focuses on jams and baked items, and I used to sell dried fruit, but not anymore. So let's go to the front. I got the sheep free ranging back here, and we saw the pigs. So the main thing with the cottage food law is you have to make the items from your home kitchen. That's one of the rules, which obviously I have no problem with, because that saves me money from having to rent a commercial kitchen. The second rule is you can't sell online. You can't sell like wholesale. You have to be the one selling your product. So like if I go to a farmer's market, or if somebody comes here to my home and buys the product, that's allowed. I can't have somebody else running my farm stand at the farmer's market. I have to be the one making the actual sales. And I can't sell my items like in a store, because I am not physically there selling my items. So none of that is allowed. I guess unless you have like a little like a consignment shop that lets you set up a stand there, something in that nature. But for the most part, you have to be the one selling your own products and handing it to the customers. So you can't necessarily ship items. And this is our quails, and we have some chicks in there too. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 1 is just make sure what you're making is under the cottage food law. Rule number 2, you have to be the one selling it. Rule number 3 has to do with labeling your items. I actually have a customer coming to pick up some jams, so I set her jams to the side so I can show you guys the label. So let's go and see that. On the Cottage Food Law website, it'll show you exactly how your label is supposed to look, and it's very easy. I print my own labels out on my own computer and printer, but it's very easy. There's just some rules that you have to follow when you're labeling your products. So I'll show you a little example. My labels aren't perfect either, but like this is a peach jam, for example. So you have to write what the product is. You have to write all the ingredients. So for a peach jam, it's just peaches, sugar, and lemon juice. If there's anything else in there like salt, vanilla, you have to list that out. So another thing that you have to put on your label is the net weight in ounces. You don't have to put the grams, but you can also do that. I put my price on there. I don't think you have to put your price on your label, but I just do that for the customers. This is not a good example of a complete label, but you have to put in the statement, made in a cottage food establishment, not subject to Florida food safety laws. And this little saying will change depending on your state. And then you're supposed to put your full address. I just put Beat Sweets Farm, DeLand, Florida, but technically you're supposed to put your full name, first name and last name, and then your full address. And they also say you can, like if somebody can Google Beat Sweets Farm and find my address on Google, for example, they say that's kind of a, like you don't have to put your full home address, but for the most part, I would be safe and put your full house address. I recently deleted my address from Google, so if somebody searches Beat Sweets Farm, you don't see my direct home address anymore. So I do have to start labeling my jars with my house address, just to keep it under the Florida Cottage Food Law. But that's why I just had written Beat Sweets Farm, DeLand, Florida, because when you Googled us, you can see your address. And you have to put your full name and contact information. You're supposed to put your phone number as well. So I have to adjust my labels now, but so that's pretty easy to do. Let me show you guys our flower garden. That is for all your products, baked items, jams, if you make the dried pasta, if you make the dehydrated fruits. Every single package that you sell has to have that label. So it is kind of annoying to have to write all that out on a label for every single product, especially if your products are packaged in very small quantities, like one cookie. So that's just another thing you have to factor in when you're deciding on what you want to sell, because you will have to label every single product with that same label, with all that information. So you got to squeeze a lot in. You also have to do it at a specific font, so it's easy to read. I would have to look back on the website to see exactly what the font is. So labeling, obviously sticking to the list of what you can and cannot sell. You don't need any specific license. You just you want to do what your county says you have to do. Like for here, for example, I just have to pay the business tax license. I have to have that. And then if I'm doing business somewhere else and not in my county, then I need a business license for that county. But for the most part, I just do all my business here, so I don't need any of that. When I first started off, I used to sell mostly in farmers markets, but a few years into it, I kind of got tired of the farmers market thing, and that's when we bought this property and we actually started doing the open farm days. So customers would come here and shop from our products. So that eliminated us having to go to farmers markets and set up our tents and tables and all our products. So that made it 10 times easier to run the business, and cheaper because we don't have to pay the fees. with the vendor fees. And we do some events, like we have a blueberry festival that I've mentioned in one of my last videos. We do a blueberry festival, which is like during the weekend, so you're allowed to do those as well. Now some events do not allow cottage food laws, like for example, if I wanted to sell my products like at a county fair, I know they don't allow that because you need to have everything made in a commercial kitchen. You need to have insurance and all of that. For cottage food law, insurance is not required, but just like everything else, you want to be safe, so it is advised that you get your own insurance, like a food insurance. My shop is not organized right now, but I'll show you guys where I display all of my products during our open farm days. So we have this little shed. If you want to see it when it's all set up, I have a video, I'll try to link it in the top right corner, where I have all my jams and everything set up. I usually put my candles and soaps here. But that's my little shop. Right now I just have all this other random stuff in it. Get out of here, chickens. I'll turn off the light. So I can't think of anything else to say about the cottage food law. I just recommend that you look it up to see if your state participates in it, because it's a great program, and it lets you kind of experiment and play around with your business before you want to go commercial, if that's what your goal is in the future, to become commercial with your products and sell it at stores. But it lets you kind of play around with everything and practice and see what works and what doesn't work. And so you have that option, and it's just so easy to get it started. You basically just need your startup money to buy your materials, and as soon as possible just start advertising, start a little Facebook page, get active on social media, and just start spreading the word. Even though you haven't started your business yet, just start talking about it and getting people excited about it, so when you do get started you already have a small following. So if you guys have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I would still consider myself a newbie, and there's always things changing with the laws in every state, so things always change. Sometimes they add things to the list, sometimes they take stuff away, but I recommend just Googling it. Google your state and then cottage food law after it. I know not all states participate in it, but if your state does, I highly recommend going ahead and getting started that way instead of just jumping into the commercial route at first. So I hope you guys enjoyed this information, and I hope that your state that you're watching from participate in this program, because it's really great. And I am going to go get some gardening done, so say goodbye, guys. I'm gonna be checking on this garden right now and see if any of our seeds have sprouted, and just filling in any empty spots with seeds. But I also wanted to mention that the cottage food law is great for stay-at-home moms, because like I said, you get to make stuff from your home kitchen, and you get to run a business from your own home and not have to worry about any of the commercial aspects or wholesale aspects of business, because I get to stay at home, I get to be with my kids, I get to do what I want to do, but still help out my family pay bills with the income that I do generate. Alright, so I gotta get to work, so we're gonna end this video right here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.